you know.
Okay. So,
Um,
all right. So now let's pivot a little here as far as to that. Now we're moving in this new age where we're talking about, right?
mhm.
The big word, the portal. Right?
Oh
The
yeah,
portal, right?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on it for the rising high schooler, right? Before they get there and give them a realistic understanding on how that impacts their future. And
I,
then any advice you might have for that athlete. Okay, you've crossed the finish line, you've got the scholarship, you're at the you're at the college, at the university, and now what?
so
Right?
I don't know if you're familiar with the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Collateral Damage.
Collateral. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
So I think when the whole transfer portal situation started, I don't think individuals were given proper advice. And I know that because I was in the rooms when that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And statements were said that this is going to be free agency. There's going to be a lot more consequences for the student athletes than what you think is actually going to be. And it's not always going to be in their favor.
Okay, so give me an example. Let's do this.
So here's
Let's
the
do a
thing.
happy path and a unhappy path.
So we'll go the unhappy path
Okay.
first, because that's the real path.
Uh-huh.
You go to a school X and you don't like it because you think you're a lot better. You're sitting on the bench at a major college in basketball. You're
Right.
sitting on the bench
Right.
and you're a freshman, and that's just not right because you are the best player in the history of the world. You're better than Michael Jordan.
But of course, right.
So you're like, heck with it. I'm transferring. Well, when you transfer, as soon as you put your name in a portal, that means you are giving up your scholarship at
Wow.
whatever school you're at.
Right.
Well, if you didn't play at school X, why in the world would school A, B, or C want you? Now, they might have thought you were better,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also looking for the best player current that
Right.
they can get.
Right.
So if you didn't play, and if you look in the numbers in basketball and football, there is far more individuals in the portal than there's actual scholarships available at the same time.
Yeah.
So that means
Now,
there's
how
a lot of
many
people.
you got an estimate on how many in the portal
Oh
at
gosh,
one time?
I remember them talking about like 1,000 basketball players in the portal for like 300 scholarships.
Wow. Okay.
So at one point, I remember talking to a friend about that,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Well, there's kids that were on Division I full scholarships that end up going D3 because
Right.
there's no money."
Right. And
And,
that's funny. I talked to some coaches, I'll reiterate what you're saying. I talked to a couple coaches where I was like, hey, okay, hey, they said, what you got? I said, well, what do you need? Oh, I got a short, a long, right? I need a mid, like you said, a running back, whatever. And let's use track. And one coach I'm close with, he said, Nick, I got a grad student who already has grad money who ran 20, okay, and is a 45. And they said they got 1 year eligibility and they just want to run for me. you know, hey, that's like a dream come true to
but
a
that's
college
more the
coach.
norm. That's more the norm.
Uh-huh.
Now let me go to the positive part.
Uh-huh.
Let's say that you were not the best or you didn't get recruited really heavily
Right.
coming out of high school.
Okay.
That you started being an athlete late, you didn't develop, maybe you didn't have coaching, you were at a high school that didn't even have a program really. So you were with your
Mhm.
club team, whatever that might be.
Right.
And you go to a school that's a little smaller and you hit,
You're the big fish.
and you pop off something great, you do your statistics are incredible.
Right.
Well, then those bigger schools now are going to be interested in you that they might not have been interested in you before, but you're an actual proven commodity. I had a top 15 baseball team. Their head coach said, "Why would I recruit a high school kid when I can go sign a kid that I play against that's already proven themselves in college?"
Right.
He goes, he said, "I probably will not recruit more than 2 or 3 high school kids every year." And I had another one said, "Hey, we're going to try to bring in 20. 10 of them are high school kids. The other 10 are transfers."
Mm-hmm.
So that takes your pool and shrinks it. And if you're a high school kid, it's going to limit your options.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not even going to recruit kids. I have a friend that's son is a great baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
He's a top 100 kid.
Right.
He didn't get a looks because the coaches were honest. They said, "We're going to go after the transfers first. Then we'll take commitments from the high school kids if we have money left."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's become the new norm. That's the new.
So that's the new normal.
That's the new norm.
So what do you recommend? So is that another reason to make sure that you do everything you can on the academic side so that you're
Across
in
the
that
board.
institutional money instead of the sports money?
Well,
that's right.
That
Get a
too,
roster spot.
But it goes back to the first of the 3 points I said. You got to be realistic.
Okay.
And you got to be realistic on where you're at and what you're doing. You can't be demanding certain things if you haven't done certain things. And that's where the second point I said was, you got to do your own research. If you have to know what is good in the Southeast Conference. You have to know what's good in the Atlantic Sun. You need to know what's good in, the Northeast Conference or the Ivy League.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just think because, I'm the best kid in Florida or I'm the best kid in Ohio that you're really that good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds kind of like I'm being kind of this humbug kind of person, but
yeah, you're scared. People do. You're scared.
It's just being real. It's just being real.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be the 5th best point guard in a city, and you'd be the best player in a couple states. So like, it's knowing where you want to go and what you want to do. Like, I mean, and just because it's not a school that is this glamorous name, because most people think glamorous names are based off of football.
Right.
It's based off, hey, I saw, this school in, the bowl game or whatever. Well, they might not be any good in track.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be any good in tennis. Like Gardner Webb.
Gardner Webb, North Kakalaka.
Okay. Good old North Kakalaka. But Gardner Webb, their admissions applications skyrocketed after they made the NCAA basketball tournament for the first time a couple of years ago. I mean, and
usually 30%.
And that has nothing to do with soccer, but it's going to help soccer because more kids are going to go, oh yeah, Gardner Webb. I've heard of Gardner Webb.
Right.
And the reason why they heard Gardner Webb was because of March Madness.
Cinderella. Right.
Hey, and that's a whole nother story because they played Virginia in the first round, and the athletic director called me after the selection show because I'd worked. He'd hired me at Gardner Webb, and I was at UVA at the time, and it was kind of funny. But that just brings a smile on my face because those two got to play each other in the first round, and it was the year that Virginia won national championship, so it was a good thing.
It was a little different this year. That first game.
I mean, but they weren't supposed
to be Cinderella game for somebody. Yeah. Who was that?
It's kind of crazy, but I mean, but if high school athletes are realistic, do their own research. Don't trust what their coach says in high school. Don't trust what what the college coach is saying. Don't trust any of those things. Like, do your own research, figure things out.
And what I tell the crews that I talked to, I said, look, first of all, like I remember, you searched the globe. I do remember that, right?
Absolutely.
And like you said, you're talking 2 states over. It's global now, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we see that on this Olympic year where you got, the crew that's trained up, they're back with their country, they're getting ready to roll
Yep.
against each other, which is fantastic because it's once again showing the global force of sports spreading
Absolutely.
across the
Absolutely.
world at its highest level. But what I tell most of the crew, I said, make sure you understand what's the center of the universe. It's not you. It's not you.
Really?
The
Come
school.
on.
It's the school. And you should see the face like, what? And they're going on these trips and they're looking at their phone and they're not talking to the coaches and they're waiting for the coaches to sell them something and tell them something. I'm like, you do understand. It's the other way around. They want you to understand it's their universe, not yours.
That brings the cell phone brings. I remember at a school I was at,
Right.
we dropped recruiting a girl who was one of the best in the country because she was on her cell phone the whole time at dinner. And we were like, we're not messing with it. Could care less. And
That's one of the stories I got. Yep.
Her
That
parents
was the
were livid.
story I got.
Her parents were livid
Yeah.
because they really wanted to go to the school that high, super high academic school, those kind of things. And it was one of those things. It was like, well, if you don't have enough common courtesy, because we're
Say
trying
that
to get to
again.
know you, we don't want you.
Yeah.
And I mean, she had a pretty good career, but it was a different thing. And if this is something else in the recruiting process that I think people need to understand is a coach is always watching, because just because you're good, just because you can run fast, catch passes, shoot shots, that's a small part of it. Because I'm getting phone calls in the middle of the night if you're screwing up. So it's one of those things. So when you're at a meet, I almost never watch the track meet itself.
Okay.
I watch the stands. I watch the warm-up area. I watch interactions with parents, interactions with coaches. And if you're blowing your mom off, you sure as heck are blowing me off. So, I don't have time for that. And my coaches don't have time for that because it's got to be a good fit. And, you would see college football coach, college basketball. I mean, it goes across the board. And that's not something I came up with. That's friends talking. Because we would sit there and go have coffee. You'd have coffee with 3 different, college coaches, 3 different sports. And you're saying, like, what are you looking for in the kid you're trying to recruit? Well, I'm watching them warm up. I'm watching them. I'm a football coach. I'm watching them at a basketball game. I want to see how they interact with the refs. I want to see how they interact with their parents. Because it's a microcosm of how they're going to be when they get in your house.
Right.
And if they're disrespectful, they're going to be disrespectful.
Okay, so now
they're going to cause problems.
So the weight of, like you said, you do your research, you narrow down where, because we didn't say it, because first thing listeners will be going to say, well, what? They ain't even said anything about the academics. where do you throw that in or go that in, whatever you want to say? What are your recommendation to them?
So, fortunate or unfortunate, 3 of the last 4 schools I was at that I coached at, were Berkeley, Harvard, and Virginia.
No joke.
No joke. So I mean, we never talked about academics, because if I had to talk about academics, you weren't the right fit.
You weren't coming.
So I mean, because you're finding the right fit, and I think that goes back to, again, the second they said is, you got to do your own research.
Right.
You gotta figure things out and find out, am I a good fit academically? And coaches will be honest with you, that, hey, like, this goes tough. Like, you got to go to class. You got to take care of business.
Yeah, but come on. All right. I play football.
There's some schools that you don't.
Yeah.
But that's what you got to know. I mean, you know, you, I mean, you can't just, expect to walk in the door and do well at every
Right.
school. You got to know,
Right.
and know what the outcome is.
Mm-hmm.
You
Now,
know,
would you like? I know some of my teammates never happened with you, right? They majored in eligibility.
oh, hey, I was at a place where we had general studies.
Right.
I don't
And
know what
then
that
they
ever
were
got them a degree
shocked.
in,
Like,
but
oh my goodness, it's not worth to me. And I've talked with some of the athletes or student athletes where they
yeah,
say they're going to hit it hard on the grad level and they're going to go to the school that says yes
yeah, and
and
I
gives
would be
money.
the first person. I was not a very good student. I
Okay.
I, I hated school.
Oh, dude, say it ain't so.
I hated
You
school.
want
I
to?
did. I did just enough. It's funny. I mean, I coached at some of these places. I could have never got in any of them. I mean, I did not like school
Right.
through the vast majority of my schooling
Mm-hmm.
till I took exercise physiology
Right.
my senior year, and I did great.
Okay. Okay.
And I remember sitting in my guidance counselor's office said, that's the hardest major or hardest class that you've taken your entire time in school, and it's the best grade you got. How did that happen? I said, well, it excited me. It intrigued me. Like it was
Right.
something that I liked. I could have
Right.
cared less about taking, poetry of the 15th century or whatever. But I had to take it. I could have cared
Right.
less about it.
Right.
Well, I
Right.
needed to get what I needed to get done so I could pass it, so I could be
Right.
eligible to play.
Right.
So I mean, like getting in a major that intrigues you and excites you can make a big difference.
Okay.
But there is students like I was much better with people
Mm-hmm.
than I was with books, and I'm a
Mm-hmm.
lot, I'm a lot more street smart than I am book smart in certain aspects. And
Mm-hmm.
and now, I mean, I'm a lot more read now than I was back then. I don't think I read a book in college. And if you looked to the left of me and you saw all these bookcases that we have in our place, I've read all those books because I started reading them on recruiting trips and
Right.
when
Right.
I got
Right.
out of college because
Right.
they were books about people. They were the exercise science books, and they
Okay.
were things that were intriguing to me in my profession and what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the same thing for a kid. And just because you go into school with one major doesn't mean you can have the major thing. That's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Uh,
Right. Right. Yeah.
you know, but again,
Okay.
do the research. Do your own
Okay.
research, man. Like,
So okay, so let's give a real use case here where all right, so you're that we'll take two sports. We'll take track, two we love, and football.
yep,
So you're that track person. You're that track dude, you're a dog, you're getting it done. And you're top 10%.
hmm
Making that list, I get asked a lot. And
yep,
like in my case, they'll say, okay, what do you recommend? You have
right,
your two reach schools, your three
yep,
optimal schools,
yep,
and your three fallbacks. Whatever, make a list of 10, right? Four fallbacks or three
yep.
fallbacks and three optimal schools. What do you recommend how they do that?
I mean, I think that's a great way to do it. I always say when you start getting the visits, when you start getting things lined up, always eliminate the last one. Meaning, if I've gone to two visits, out of those two visits, pick which one you're eliminating and get rid of them. Um,
Say that again.
so
So,
if
so
I've got five, we'll use five visits set up. I go to
okay,
my first visit. It's good or whatever. I go to my second visit. After the second visit, figure out which one you're keeping, which one you're leaving.
okay.
And then when you go on your third visit, figure out which one you're keeping, which one you're leaving.
Mm,
So then it's always down to one school. So
got
you
you.
know where your top school is all the way through,
Keep it
and
coupled.
let the other ones know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let the other. I mean, if you take your first visit and you're like, I'm not interested at all in that school,
Mm-hmm.
tell them so they can go find somebody else because that somebody else might be you.
Right. Now, now on the other side, okay, I
Yep.
get that. So now a barrage of questions come at me with regards to when people are showing interest. I tell them, be interested because they're celebrating you, not tolerating, and show up.
Yes.
At least so you're learning the process, you know? So
And
it's like buying cars, right? You don't say you're not going to be in a Yugo or
yes,
Volkswagen versus
right,
Mercedes or whatever, right?
right,
Or
right,
Tesla. You want to look at everything so you learn the way. Yeah.
right. And one of the things to keep in mind, per se, is college coaches don't want to hear from mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
They want to hear from the athlete. And if it becomes habitual that all of the correspondence is done from, mom or dad, they're probably not going to be super interested because they want to get to know the kid. The kid is who they're, going to be coaching and recruit.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know who that individual is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just getting it from mom and dad, I mean, that's great. I mean, I always wanted to talk to parents. I want to get the little bit of background, but I don't want mom and dad always reaching out to me. I want
Mm-hmm.
students to reach out because that's who I'm going to deal with for the next, 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And
Right.
and if you probably a good word of advice is if you don't think your kid should respond, then they're probably too young to respond. Like
Mm-hmm.
if mom and dad, if they don't you don't trust your kid to go through that piece or whatever, you know, it's probably a good sign.
Yeah. Risk.
Like, hey,
You see risk. It's like
yeah,
insurance buying it. You're like, okay,
absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad we were able to do this.
No, absolutely.
This a part one. Fur will bring more to you later. I got to do the client thing and actually deal with them. I
I love it. I love it.
appreciate you,
I
man.
love it.
See
Hey,
you
Ash,
Friday, dude.
appreciate you.
All right.
See you
Take
later.
care now. Bye bye.